Live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Hot and Health Topics with Dr. Q. My name is Neil Hutchins. I am your treat fairy and host for today's episode. Today, we wanted to go over declawing of cats, some feline problem solving, and canine play versus aggression. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and hello, Dr. Q. How are you today?
I'm good, Neil. How are you?
I am wonderful.
Good. Thank you so much for doing this, and
No, absolutely.
myself so
Thank
you
you
can see me better.
Thank you very much for taking the opportunity to bring us these answers to some wonderful hot and health topics that we get here frequently in Positive Pet Advice group. And thank you very much for bringing it to your live YouTube channel. That's actually wonderful, taking it outside the box for us.
Well, thank you, and Neil, and I hope you can see me because I'm having a little trouble seeing myself. Can you just give me some feedback on how I look to you?
Yeah, can you adjust your camera down about 8 inches? Yay!
Is that better?
Yeah, we have you
Okay.
north of the cleavage. We're good to go.
Awesome. Okay. So in the group this week in Positive Pet Advice, one question that came up was about decline cats, and that was sort of a big issue this week. So I thought it would be a good topic for us to talk about.
I agree.
And there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm sorry if I...
No, you're perfectly fine. I can go ahead and fill those up.
Okay, so just so you know that if I'm slow, that's why.
Take your time.
So one of our participants in a Positive Pet Advice this week made a comment about her cat being aggressive, and then during the course of the discussion it came about that the kitty was declawed, and unfortunately it opened a big plethora of opportunity for people to make a lot of negative commentary about the cat being declawed, when really that wasn't the issue. The issue was she was having some issues with the aggression.
Right.
And a lot of people just took that opportunity to sort of vent their opinion about declawing cats. So I wanted to make a note about that.
Is it okay to say that the dog or the cat was not aggressive because it was declawed? It just might have some aggressive tendencies, or maybe just a very heightened play drive that's not what they were used to or not what they were expecting?
I think that your comments are right on the money.
Okay.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say what's causing that cat's aggression.
Right.
But the bottom line is, we don't know what the situation is. We have to find out that information. Was this a rescue kitty that came already declawed, and so this pet parent had no choice in the matter?
Right.
So we have to find out that kind of information before we can pass any sort of judgment. And in the veterinary profession, there are still veterinarians that do declawing. I just read that there's going to be some legislature about it that's possibly going to eliminate its use. But it has value in some situations where if the cat's life is on the line.
Right. Would you be able to explain some of those to us so that we actually we can know why it would be beneficial?
Well, say, for example, again, you acquire a cat from a family member, say they pass away, the cat has aggressive issues, and you have small children in the household, so you feel deeply bonded and attached to this animal to where you are definitely going to keep it in your household no matter what, because you find it, you treat it as a matter of your family. But at the same time, if the cat has a potential because of past history or behavior issues or who knows what the case may be, you're bringing this animal into your household with, say, elderly people or small children.
Absolutely.
It's actually a really safety issue for this animal to potentially break the skin of other people in the household. So
Right.
it, there's also situations that I've run into where we have, husband and wives, and the wife loves the cat and wants to keep it, and the husband says, "I'm tired of it destroying my $5,000 leather couch, and if you don't do something about that, I'm going to get rid of it." And again, another situation where sometimes we just have to work with what we've got, and if the cat is again, life is on the line here,
Yeah.
then we definitely want to at least consider it as an option. Not my favorite option by any choice, but
Right.
I'd rather have a live declawed cat than a dead or abandoned cat.
Right. Would you suggest any activities, enrichment, things that might be able to go in place of declawing? Do you think that there's specific games or activities that might encourage the cat to engage in a more appropriate manner as opposed to what we all know, cutting off the finger?
I think there's a couple of different things there because we're making the assumption that the cat is facing being declawed because of how it's using its claws.
Right.
So we'd have to take that into consideration. Is it clawing the furniture, or is it hurting people? So those are kind of two different things.
Right.
But either way, making sure that we're enriching the cat in all ways possible. That means lots of opportunities to get up high. That means lots of opportunities to scratch, having both vertical and horizontal scratching surfaces available to the cat, and putting those near, say, the places where you don't want them scratching, putting catnip on those places to try to encourage them to attract to that location to scratch. And then, of course, playing appropriately with the cats at least once a day, stimulating them, getting their heart rate up. That's good for us. It's good for our cats. And it helps them to have an opportunity to sort of expel some energy and hopefully be less likely to take it out on us.
And what a wonderful way to structure an engagement with them. Being able to do something with them and see the enjoyment of it versus just the stress or the anxiety or the heartache of the damage or anything else that might be happening. We can build that bond to have a better relationship in the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Very,
Wonderful.
very well said.
Oh, thank you. Um, I wanted to ask you a few questions on canine play versus canine aggression, body language, it's actually funny, we bounced a few other topics that I figure we could kind of umbrella here into this is, some people are wondering on how to break up dog fights and, what is appropriate play, what is too dangerous when they really get going, because I know I have a 4-year-old dog. He really loves to roughhouse, and I'm okay roughhousing with him. I'm okay with him roughhousing with his friends, but I'm not gonna go let him just run up to any dog and roughhouse with it. That there's a little bit of a responsibility that we should understand here in how the behavior works and how the science works. You want to explain a little bit on your piece here?
Yeah, I would be happy to. Even though you, being the excellent dog trainer that you are, I would like your input as well. I'd like to hear sort of what. So actually, why don't we start with that, Neil? If you'll be so kind as to indulge me. So if that question that was in the group this week came to you, how do I tell the difference between play that's getting too aggressive or not? How would you answer that to your clients?
I always like to tell my clients that play has to be equal. It has to be equal for both partners. Time on top, time on the bottom. We want lots of play bows. We're looking for maybe some vocalization. But ultimately, some of the things we need to look out for is teeth baring. Are we noticing any stiff body posture, any hackles? Are we noticing that maybe one dog is done or just not as comfortable in this situation? When do we intervene? I would say anytime you think it necessary. If your gut is telling you, wait, I need to stop this, stop it. Because if anything, you're teaching your dog a check-in cue. So that way in the future, if you are out doing something, they understand, oh, it's time to come back. It's time to get into this frame of mind, right? So if anything, we're not going to damage their play. We're just going to create another cue to stop the play in the future. So ultimately, I say trust your gut, go with the flow. However, you need to understand what some of those body postures that we're really looking for. I like to say if a dog has a tail and it's going like a clock, you should be good to go. However, if it's flicking back and forth and it kind of reminds you of a pissed off kitty, might want to stop that right there. People always think the tail's going, yay! That's not really the case. Just because they're showing us one body posture does not mean that that's what they're feeling. Sometimes we have to look for 2 or 3 different body postures together so that we understand the full communication level that they're portraying to us. So I like to look for play behaviors, loud barks. You want things that are kind of high-pitched, fun. I know for a fact my guy's got a pretty gruff bark. Some people get really scared of it. I think you've actually heard it a couple times on Skype, Doc. But so he doesn't have very many little friends. But you have to know the dog as well. You have to understand that dog as well. And you also have to be polite to the other person. If that other person is saying, no, I don't really like the way your dog is playing, don't just walk up to somebody else's dog and bap them on the nose. We had that as a problem this week in PPA, and I don't think that's the appropriate manner to do things. I believe if I'm playing with my friends or I'm out on an outing or things, the first day I go to the vet, I just moved. I'm trying to find a new vet. I go to them, I tell them, I'm a positive reinforcement dog trainer. I am a clicker dog trainer. There is a specific protocol that I follow in all of my behavior interactions with my pet. And I really need you to abide by that as well, or allow me the opportunity to do what's necessary. You should do that. You should, by all means, if you are a clicker client, or you are a progressive client, or a modern client, or a positive client, or a force-free client, talk to your friends and neighbors and relatives, because they may not be doing it the same way as you, and you don't want a bad interaction. Because ultimately, from that interaction we heard this week, there's chances of an imprint there for fear of that friend, and you don't want to not be able to go and enjoy your friend and enjoy your dog if that was your main goal in the beginning. So really just read a couple books. There's a couple really good links in, I'll go ahead and post them for this video, and I posted some in the group as well this morning, just on some good body language and things to look for in play and whatnot. That's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your input on that and your wisdom on that. I love the way you explain it. I love the way you're explaining about how it's very easy sometimes for pet owners to misrepresent what the tail wagging actually means and things like that. So I love the way that you explained all that. So I'd like to tell you a little story to start with.
Go for it.
So when I got my dog, Sushi, my little Rottweiler, so...
which, by the way, I have to tell you, I am enamored with the name, because it is my favorite food in the entire world. And I actually lived in Japan, fresh sushi on a regular basis. I was never happier. I love you, and I love sushi.
Thank you. I love you too.
You're welcome.
So when Sushi was a baby, I was in the same boat with wanting to have her be able to play and have friends and all of that sort of stuff. And so I, against my better judgment, let her play with another dog that was, when she was maybe 5, 6 months old. This dog was maybe like 9 months old, or maybe even a little over a year. But it was a German Shepherd puppy that outweighed her by probably 2.5 times. And they were both exuberant, so it seemed like the perfect outlet, right, for both of them to just run and play and tussle. And the other dog
Hopefully.
was the other dog was always a little bit more, aggressive, obviously, because she's heavier, it's bigger. And so she would kind of toss Sushi around and so forth. And I always, I didn't like it. I was kind of cringed, but I thought, well, the trade-off is probably worth it, because the exercise she's getting and the lessons she's learning and how to, play with another dog.
Right.
Well, ultimately, unfortunately, what happened is one day this other dog body slammed her and rolled her about 15 feet across the room and into a wall, and actually broke her elbow in a way that's not fixable, really, except for with arthroscopic surgery that would not really even have a good chance of having a good outcome. So now she limps, and she's limped ever since. And so now, of course, she's going on 9 years old, and she's had this limper since she was 6 months old. So it's a constant reminder to me that if you're feeling a little insecure with how the interaction is going, no matter what the other person says or what other people around you say that they're going, oh, it's fine, let him play, oh, I know what I'm doing, my dog's great, don't worry about it. If sort of deep inside your gut feeling is, I don't know, I kind of feel like my baby might be in danger, then learn to listen to that and stop the interaction. And if your dog needs exercise, to go and exercise your puppy somewhere else in a safe place. I know, Neil, I've heard you mention many times my number one favorite rule that we have here at the Rescue Ranch, which is safety first.
It is. I live by it. I absolutely live by it. There's no other first rule in my book outside of safety first. If you feel it's not going to be healthy, or it's not going to be safe, or you feel that you need to add extra control, restraint, whatever the case may be, if safety says yes, then that's what you need to do. Does that mean that I'm going to tell you go throw a muzzle on your dog tomorrow? No. Obviously, we're going to want to work with that. We're going to want to make it a positive and progressive engagement to where they understand what the muzzle means. They understand it's a temporary thing. It's just here to make sure that everyone is at ease during the appointment or engagement or wherever it may be, because when everyone is relaxed, then we can have a successful consultation. If everyone's not relaxed, well, we all know I worked in the veterinary practice as well. Shit can go downhill really fast.
Yes. Yes, it can. So what I always tell people as far as how to decide is I always teach my clients to think about animals' behavior on a scale of 1 to 10. And with 10 being a vicious, bloody dogfight where skin is getting ripped and blood is flying, and 1 being where they're 100 yards away from each other and not even looking at each other and totally, completely out of each other's personal space or safety circles, as I'd like to say. And so my goal is for all interactions, whether it's I'm interacting with an animal or the animals are interacting with each other, my goal is for every interaction to be somewhere around the level of a 5. Okay, so we always want to not be too timid, not be too bold, sort of be somewhere in that middle. And then to really learn to recognize when one or the other of the dog's behavior is sort of escalating up into the 6-7 range, and go ahead and recognize it at that point. And then that's the time to go ahead and stop the interaction, even if it's for a 30-second timeout, just for everybody to just kind of take a breath. Okay, everything's good, checking in, and not letting it continue to roller coaster and escalate up into those higher values where we're more likely to trigger fights or aggression,
Right.
or that one body slam that's just a little bit too hard and somebody could actually get hurt.
Right. You know, and I would definitely like to just point out a little piece because somebody asked about information on dog parks and things like that. So I just wanted to point out that this scale also works wonderfully, and the check-in queue that we spoke about earlier works in wonderfully. If you're at that dog park, just make sure that the interactions aren't going overboard, especially when you get a multitude of dogs engaging at one time. It's like a herd of elephants booming across the ground. And so, I mean, we're looking at hazards of being knocked over, dogs getting pinned into fences, where it may not have been an aggressive issue at all, but can turn into an aggressive issue in an instant because they feel cornered or unsafe or whatever the case may be. So if you are going to dog parks, check out some of the rules. Maybe think about not letting your dog bum rush the gate or anything like that, just to make it a more inviting atmosphere. And really, if you are a dog owner, learn body language. If you can read about canine body language, learn as much of it as you can, because that is how your dog is going to be primarily speaking to you. They're not going to give you vocal cues like we do. They don't have conversations like we do. So it really is important that you learn that, because that's where they're going to check back in with you, and they're really going to give you a lot of their information on how they're feeling or processing in that time or environment.
Right, right. Yep, I think that that's really important, bringing up dog parks. And also, from a health perspective, keep in mind if you are going to dog parks, you may want to consider doing the Bordetella vaccine. Of course, make sure your dog's up to date on vaccines, because that would be a good place for some of those diseases to be spread.
Right.
So sometimes we think of that as being something that's only important for dogs that are actually going to a boarding kennel, but it's a very contagious problem. So just if one dog, even if the dog park is empty, but the dog that was there before your dog had a cough and snotted on a rock or something like that, and then your dog went over there and sniffed it. Unfortunately, your dog could be at risk for getting kennel cough. So that's just a side note from a health perspective on something to think about when you're going to dog parks.
Yes, absolutely. I usually recommend it to people in urban environments as well, high-rise apartment complexes, condos, associations, things like that. Sometimes you have quite a few dogs in those areas, and if they usually have a designated doggy spot, chances are you have higher risks of parasites and things. So it's really important to make sure that you do your routine proactive health checkups, as well as make sure that you have your baseline vaccines all taken care of for your area, just to make sure that everyone is nice and safe and hopefully content.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Doc, last week I gave you an assignment because I thought it was really funny that everyone was explaining the backstory as to how their dog got their name. And so I posted my memes, and as everyone knows, I have the ultimate Loki. I have the god of chaos and mischief. He is absolutely phenomenal. He's wonderful. He knows his cues. He's doing great. We're excelling way faster than I thought we were going to while we're here catching back up again. But he hides things, and his favorite thing to do is to find like my beanies or my car keys or things like that. Things I need to leave the house. He will find them and hide them. So that's why we call him Loki, because he's a little bit of a butthead. And then I have my latte because, well, I'm always drinking coffee. I'm addicted to coffee, and she is a red Doberman, and I couldn't, pass it up with espresso in her bloodlines. So, latte it was. And my Lord Seamus Thunderbutch, my wonderful off-the-track thoroughbred, who he's renamed Seamus, actually after a UFC fighter who is absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous man. Ginger. Gorgeous ginger. Oh. And so I have this, infatuation with him. So I named my wintergreen Kelly Thunderbutch after Sheamus the UFC fighter. So, Doc, tell me, why do your why do your pets have the names they have? Where did it come from?
Well, I have 15 pets, so
Pick some.
so I don't know if we can go through all of them today. But so sushi, sushi, her name came from. So as you may or may not know, I do an awful lot of fish medicine. So in addition to my deep interest in behavior and holistic medicine, I do more pet fish medicine than anybody in my state and probably in my surrounding areas, actually. So
I would go a
um,
little bit more than that, actually. I've looked into it.
thank you, thank you. But so I do a lot of fish medicine, probably 50% of what I do. And
So cool.
so it just made sense, didn't it? That a
Yeah.
fish doctor would have a dog named
I mean,
Sushi.
you
I mean,
always
it just,
have fish on the brain. It's so I have to joke about it all the time. I love it. Your kois are beautiful as well, by the way. You, you are a fascinating and lovely lady. And I want to take this time to thank you oh so much for coming to Positive Pet Advice and also putting this on your YouTube. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you for taking this step. I hope that we can make this work further in the future. It is a little bit of a hot topic right now. What are we actually going to call this segment? So if anyone does have any suggestions on this, we love the health, we love the hot topics, we love Dr. Q. So if you have anything to bring to us, go ahead and feel free to PM me. You can message me any way possible. I am Neil Hutchins, your treat fairy. You're live today with Dr. Q. And now, Dr. Q, can you tell us how do you say your name?
so my name is Gina with like the line over the E. Questen, like strengthen. So that's how you say my last name. But for anybody that's too many, too much to remember, just call me Dr. Q.
Yeah, I call you Doc.
Anyway is fine. Anyway is fine.
All
But
right.
if you like this video and this is helpful to you, if you please subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to Neil's channel as well. He's an amazing dog trainer, and I'm so lucky and blessed and happy to be working together with him on this project. And we hope to bring you many more in the weeks to come.
Absolutely. See you all next week, and I'll have your topics up in about 24 to 48 hours. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.